So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Ryan Cheyne from Pets at Home. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. So, Ryan, for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a bit about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm People Director at Pets at Home, where I've been for 8 years now. I've spent my entire career in retail, which a former friend recently pointed out has been 25 years long. But I did start when I was young. And I started off in retail operations, running stores, before moving into HR and moved to Pets at Home 8 years ago, as I say. In terms of the work that we do, I'm responsible for the whole range of what you might consider HR functions, so from ER through to training and development across stores, our support office in Wilmslow and our two distribution centres. But a key focus for us has been making Pets at Home a truly amazing place to work.
I mean, that leads me on to my next question, because first of all, we met at the European Customer Experience World Conference this year, where I was your MC for one of the speaking sort of slots. But
you did so well.
Oh, thank you very much, very kind. Now, but I know that earlier in this year, so 2013, Pets at Home appeared in the Sunday Times 100 Best Big Companies to Work For list, and in fact, you came number one. And I thought,
we did.
Amazing, congratulations! And it was a bit like angels started singing when I saw that. I was like, oh.
And not half as much as they did here when you won it.
Well, I can imagine, because you were number. Was it number 2 in 2012?
We were, yeah.
And so, first of all, what did you do differently in 2012 to 2013 to kind of nudge it from number 2 to number 1? Because I guess they always say, it's almost like the last inches or the last yard is the hardest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, when we came second in 2012, we were incredibly proud. We celebrated a lot, and then the next morning woke up and thought, "Oh dear, there's only one way for us to go now." And it was a bit of a moment. But actually, one of the things that's great about Pets at Home is the passion from the colleagues across the business.
Uh-huh.
And, if I'm honest, we did have a debate about, God, what do we do now? Because you've got one place forward and then 25 back as your options, But we decided that we would just really go for it, because it was the journey that we were on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a truly amazing place to work was our ambition. And, this is the Sunday Times is a benchmark. It's an indicator. I mean, that's all it is.
Yes.
And we just thought we'd go for it. So I wouldn't say we actually did anything different other than whip the troops up, I think.
Right.
So obviously, once we got the results in 2012, we went out across the business. We celebrated it. We did loads of kind of feedback in terms of what it meant, how proud we should all be. And then we kind of dipped into a bit of warrior spirit.
Right.
Said, right, how do we move it on? Because we know we're really good, but how do we become the absolute best?
Yeah.
And it kind of helped a little that in 2012, Iceland, the frozen food people, were named as number 1.
Right.
And as a business, obviously they're retail.
Uh-huh.
They're based in the Northwest, as we are based in the Northwest. So we kind of leveraged a bit of friendly rivalry.
Made it a northern thing then.
Yeah, but it was all about focusing on the areas that were really going to drive it. So in Sunday Times, there are I think it's 8 section headings, and I won't remember them all.
Yeah.
But 8 kind of groupings of feedback. And the 2 that really distinguish the great companies from the good companies are kind of well-being and giving something back.
Yes.
And we're great at that stuff, but didn't necessarily communicate. So we focused particularly on those. We focused on the feedback per se that we got from Sunday Times and our own internal survey, and we just went for it. Mm-hmm. So retail is quite good at getting that competitive element going. So we created a load of excitement about it, and that buzz kind of carried us through, really.
Fantastic. Now, within that, within the results of all of that, and also what you talked about at the conference where we met, a lot of the stuff you talked about is completely underpinned by sort of engaging your employees and employee engagement. Now, employee engagement is this, it's a big word, a big concept, a big nebulous thing, really.
Yeah.
What does employee engagement mean to Pets at Home, and how do you achieve such a high level to be able to drive the sort of performance that you see represented in the Sunday Times, or winning #1 in the Sunday Times Best Big Companies to Work For list?
Yeah. I think, employee engagement is almost it's at risk of becoming an HR phrase that goes out of fashion, as for some reason these things do.
Yes, indeed.
But basically, for me, it's about having a business full of people that are really up for it, passionate about what they do, and understand how they fit in the scheme of things, and are real advocates for the business. And how we've achieved it is a huge question, but I think the thing for me that really strikes home, particularly when we've been kind of reviewing the Sunday Times, and now that we've got to #1, is how long it's a long game.
Yes.
And it has taken us 8 years, I would say, to go from what you might call zero to #1. So it is not something that, as a business, you can dip in and dip out of and have a 1-year program to say, let's get to #1. Effectively last year we had a bit of a 1-year program saying let's push to #1, but we couldn't have done that without the previous 7 years worth of building.
Well, it's like putting the roof on a house, really. You've got to build up from the foundations first.
Exactly. And the reason we did Sunday Times originally, back in 2007 when we started, was to benchmark ourselves.
Yes.
And to see where we were and to learn from it. And in 2007, we got nothing. We didn't get any placements on the list. We didn't get any stars. We were nowhere. And we learned from that. And then over those years, we've seen this progress. The following year, we were like one to watch, which is their kind of coming up on the outside category. And then we got 1 star. But each year, our Best Companies Index has improved, and that's what we were doing it for.
Yes.
So I think, how do we achieve it? We set out with a clear goal of being a truly amazing place to work. The goal was not to win the Sunday Times. That's a nice sideline indicator, if you like. The goal was to be an amazing place to work, and as a top team, we were very focused on that. There are clearly HR things that we have done, and for me, I think in many ways, it boils down to 3 things. You recruit the right people, you train them and give them the capability to do the job, and then you reward and recognise them. That's very simply what it is. And then you stay committed to it.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that when we started, it was a bit of a leap of faith, because we knew it felt right, and we knew it sounded right, and logic said it was right. Now, all the years later, I've got all the data you could possibly want to prove the cost benefit and the return on investment and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that comes after.
Well, indeed, it's a bit like
so it's been a long game.
It's a bit like as you say, take a leap of faith. It's like doing the right thing isn't necessarily you can't put that down on a spreadsheet.
No. And there's all sorts of spin-off benefits that emerge along the way, and it's hard work, but it's a long-term strategy. And I think part of a lot of it's not particularly difficult or complicated in terms of things you've got to do, but because you're dealing with people, it takes time to filter through.
Yes.
And, we live in a kind of instantaneous, short-term world. Public companies have to report every quarter and all that sort of thing. So you have to have the people that are prepared to stick it out. But having said that, as long as you're progressing along the way, then you can see that you're making that progress. So it's not a case of it's rubbish for 8 years. You constantly improve to get to that kind of pinnacle.
Yes, indeed. I think there's what's interesting is you say it's a long game, and you've got to sort of almost play the long game, but you've also got to show that you're making improvements along the way. So you'll always be measuring, always be monitoring, as it were. Yeah. And I think the other thing that when we spoke at the conference, when you mentioned that was it 92% of all of your staff are pet owners themselves?
That's correct. Yeah, in stores there is a tremendous affinity with what we do, and actually our end customer, because our customers generally have four legs,
Yes.
a lot of hair,
yes,
or swim, you know.
So, but my question about that was about this: was that over the 8 years, has that number sort of changed?
You know what? If I'm honest, I don't know. I suspect it has crept up, but to be honest, it has always been high.
Right.
You know, people are attracted to us because of the pets. Our customers are attracted to us because of the pets, and our colleagues are attracted because they love working with, or they love pets per se. Now, I do think it has probably edged up, but it's something we've only really been measuring for the last 4 years.
Right.
And in that time, it's remained consistently high.
Okay. Now, I was just wondering about whether you talked about, hiring the right people, whether that was one of the sort of the part of the right people prerequisites, as it were.
Yeah. Well, we're often asked, do you have to have a pet to work here? And the answer is no.
Right.
And there are a lot of people, 8%, who don't.
Yes.
And that's absolutely fine, because there are some very good reasons why actually sometimes it's not right to own a pet, or personal circumstances, living arrangements, whatever they might be.
Yes.
But what we do say is you have to get pets, and that's kind of like, if you want, one of our competency headings.
Mm-hmm.
So a pet is a member of the family,
mm-hmm.
and people get giddy about their pets and do weird and wonderful things and dress them up and go gaga over them and stuff. So you've got to understand that.
Yes.
But actually, that recruitment piece was interesting, because in the old days, when turnover wasn't good and when we weren't as people focused and engagement wasn't as high, we used to recruit a lot of pet lovers.
Right.
Which kind of makes sense. But there are people out there who are passionate about pets but really don't get people.
Well, yes.
And then the other side of it is, we are a retail environment. We're not a zoo. So people come saying, I'm thinking I'm going to play with rabbits all day and all this sort of stuff. Well, actually, in real terms, we do all of the kind of welfare and maintenance stuff out of hours. We do it before the shop opens. Once that's done, they look after themselves. And unless you're selling the pet, there isn't necessarily a lot of interaction. And you are moving stock around and you're dealing with customers.
Yeah.
So our trick has been to get the balance, to get people who love pets and are passionate about pets or get pets, but can also interact well with people, or outward going, have personalities,
yes,
confident, and will do the hard graft that is retail.
Yes.
Lugging stock around, filling shelves. It's hard work. So that's been our focus, rather than purely going down the pet route.
Okay. So that must all translate. I mean, the way I see it is it's almost a bit like, people talk about employee engagement, and then people talk about customer engagement, and then people talk about, business growth, company growth, sustainable growth, etc., etc. For me, it's a bit of a virtuous cycle, in a way.
Yeah.
So get the strategy right, get the leadership right, engage your employees. They'll deliver they're more likely to deliver or produce something that really engages customers, and the customers will then, deliver kind of growth, etc., and so on. So it continues. Would you agree with that? Would you agree if you get it? It's a lot of people focus on customer engagement and employee engagement and do it separately, but actually, it seems to me that what you're doing is you're going, right, fine. We know
it is
an integrated
absolutely
thing.
Agree.
Right.
I absolutely agree. It is what's been great fun is, we've been able to prove with our own data and our own experience the kind of service profit chain.
Right.
Made famous by the Harvard Business School, but actually it's out there.
Yes.
So, it sounds very logical that you treat your colleagues right, they'll treat the customers right, and you'll end up with more money in the till. And whatever your business you're in, whether you're retail or financial services or care homes, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That chain sort of follows through.
Yes.
I guess in retail we're quite lucky that, you've got your colleagues, customers and the cash
yes,
all in the same buildings across the the country, so it's very visible. But the reason it's a great thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a great environment to work in, so it's good fun. Today, for example, we're having strawberries and cream because we're in the middle of Wimbledon. And we're just doing that, and it's free for the colleagues in the office, and that kind of thing is a really nice environment to be in.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it drives a commercial return.
Yes.
So we know that where our stores are most engaged from our own internal engagement survey, their customer feedback results tend to be higher.
Right.
And we use NPS as a measure of customer satisfaction, Net Promoter Score.
Yes.
And we know that if the Net Promoter Score is higher, they spend more money on their transactions. And the data flows through it is all interlinked.
Yes.
And you get things like, when I joined 8 years ago, our turnover was over 70%.
Wow.
And we were spending over 300 grand a year on recruiting retail management into a chain that was half the size it is today.
Okay.
Today, double the size of the chain, we're spending 32 grand a year.
Good effort. And, so 10 times reduction in recruitment costs.
Yeah. Because our turnover's plummeted.
Yes.
And, people are there, they're staying, they're enjoying it, they're engaged. So you've got the cash in the cash in the till.
Mm-hmm.
You've got people who are trained and specialists, and they are staying with you, so you're retaining that specialism within the business. And obviously, as time goes on, they become more specialist. And then you've got all the kind of spin-off costs, like reducing recruitment costs, reducing sickness levels, et cetera, et cetera. So although it feels, some people may look at it and go, it's soft, HR-y.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not. And that soft stuff is quite hard to deliver.
Yes.
It's easy to train somebody to use a till or to stack a shelf. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite harder to deliver the softer stuff of engaging with customers, managing people properly.
Well, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was Tom Peters that was talking about systems and people and performance and stuff. And he went, hard is soft, soft is hard.
Yeah, it is.
So something like that also comes up in this sort of customer engagement, employee engagement sort of area and sort of debate and the thing that gets in the way of many businesses tying this all together, making a success is about how they operate across departments. So with HR, with marketing and sales, etc., and operations. Is there anything that you've done differently that has made that sort of work better for you, or is it just that you generally got an open and collaborative sort of culture?
I think it is culturally driven.
Right.
There, if I'm honest, there are times when those sort of barriers and challenges still exist. We are pretty much open plan across the business.
Right.
And we do have a culture where we try and encourage discussion, and rather than email somebody that's next to you or even down a flight of stairs, get up and talk about it.
Yes.
So, that is always a challenge, but we are pretty good at it, and we're pretty dynamic. So we're quite flat structurally.
Yes.
And if retail have got an issue with product supply, they'll pop across the office and talk about it.
Yes.
So in terms of kind of main trading, our office is set out with the main trading front-facing functions are all together. So literally can just walk across an office.
Okay.
Of course, you are restrained by the physical building of it. But I think the culture means that it's not a blame culture.
Yes.
It's a solutions-facing culture. So if things go wrong, we'll take it on the chin, we'll try and learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Fantastic.
Having said that, I don't want that to sound like, we are a highly accountable organisation.
Yes.
And I think that's something that a lot of people miss about great places to work. So we have fun, we're relaxed, we'll eat strawberries at Wimbledon, we'll do all the sort of dancing around and really good time stuff that people might smirk at. But actually you've got to deliver. And if you don't deliver, we'll support, we'll help, but we'll move pretty quickly.
So it's almost like creating
that.
creating a place that's fun but also serious.
Yeah, we've got an expression here, and it's not one of our values per se, but we say, we take our job seriously, but not ourselves.
Right. Okay.
And so, we are relaxed. Most people that come to the office or come to meet any of our people in stores think, wow, you're really nice guys and all that. And we are, we are. But if you're here to do a job and you can't do it, and we've given you the support to help you through, we won't hang around forever.
Yes.
And won't carry people, because that has the effect of lowering everybody else's expectations and standards.
Well, indeed.
So it's making sure, it only takes one rotten apple in a bunch of apples. You don't have bunches of apples, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. a barrel of apples, I think.
Yeah, and it soon spreads.
Yes.
So it's one of the most fun, involving, challenging, but most accountable environments I've ever worked in.
Fantastic. So, Ryan, wrapping all that up, if I said to you, imagine somebody's reading or listening to this interview, and they said, well, I run my own business, and therefore I can't go and apply for a job at Pets at Home as much as I would like to. So I've got to get the best out of my own teams. What would you say to them and say, here's some top one or top two or top three things that you should concentrate on that you found sort of works in terms of getting the best out of your teams and getting really sort of started, sort of improving performance and just generating momentum?
Yeah, I've said it earlier. My top three are, you've got to get the right people.
Right.
We put an awful lot of effort into our recruitment processes, because if you get the wrong people to start, whatever you do afterwards, you've got an uphill battle.
Right.
So you've got to get the right people. Then once you've got them, focus on their training and development, and give them the opportunity to grow personally, but also the capability to do the job that you want them to do. And then reward and recognise them, and that's kind of like the accelerator, if you like.
Yes.
Because it's probably the least tangible of those 3 points.
Yes.
So you've got the right people, you can put training programs and stuff in place, but that reward and recognition accelerates it. So you recognise and reward the behaviours that you want to see.
But that's not just financial rewards, I would assume.
No. In fact, actually, the financial rewards are kind of probably bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
It's making people feel appreciated. So, whenever you do an internal survey, the bottom statement, however good you are at it, is I want more pay, or however you phrase it. I think my benefits are fair, because of course you ask the question, everybody wants more.
Yes.
The next one up, generally, I find, is I feel valued and appreciated for the job that I do, and that can be as little as a handwritten note. Handwritten notes are probably the most powerful form of recognition. We use them a lot.
Yep.
And if you go around people's desks here, or if you go into our stores, into the colleague canteen, you will see them pinned up all over the place from years ago. People just keep them.
Right.
And it's not an email, because an email's better than nothing.
Yes.
An email saying thank you is fine, but what happens when your mailbox gets full is you delete them.
Well, indeed.
Whereas a handwritten note is pinned up. It costs nothing. But we celebrate anything. We've got a bell in the office, a big sort of old ship's bell. And if we've got a reason to celebrate, we'll gather everybody round and we'll share the story of what we've got to celebrate, and we'll ring the bell.
Nice.
Now, if you've got the wrong people, you're going to get few opportunities to celebrate.
Yes.
If they don't know what they're doing or can't do it, you're going to get few opportunities to celebrate. So it really is the accelerant, the icing on the cake, really.
Okay. So, that sounds brilliant, and there's some fantastic sort of tips in there. I mean, what's Pets at Home's and your plans for 2013 and beyond? Now you've got to number one. You said you've got a choice. It's the same sort of choices as you had in sort of 2012, I guess. But there's an additional one, which is we're not going to play anymore because we've got top of the pile.
Yeah.
So what's the plans for the future?
The plans are we're not going to play that game. We're going to play a different game.
Okay.
So, we're now talked earlier about when we started off in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do it to be number one, we did it to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is, when you're at the top of the pile,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you look at the benchmarks
Yeah.
from that process,
They're all off you.
Naturally, every one of them is not, so you can't look at them and go, wow, they're up front in that area.
Yeah.
Because they're not. And so, this is absolutely, there is no arrogance here. There is a lot of fear.
Yes.
Here. Because actually we want to continue to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So our plans going forward are to challenge ourselves and relook at where in the world we can benchmark ourselves against,
Okay.
to make sure we get even better. Our vision, our mission statement is to be the best pet shop in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that would include being a truly amazing place to work. So
Mm-hmm.
when people talk generically about great places to work, I think they talk about places like Southwest Airlines, Apple, Google, those sorts of organisations, Zappos.
Yeah.
Those sorts of places kind of gained legendary status.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to be.
Okay.
So we are currently looking at how can we benchmark ourselves against the next setup. So if I use a football analogy, if we won the Premiership, we now want to go on to the Champions League.
Right.
And that's tough.
Yes.
That's tough because we're really good at what we do. But if we just go, right, we're really good, I can guarantee we'll slip down.
Yes. I mean, that's fantastic. So, that's your big hairy-ass goal, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. We want people to talk about Zappos and Pets at Home in the same sort of
That's
term.
Amazing.
And so yeah, and if we don't do that, then we'll end up chasing a trophy.
Yes.
And it really isn't about the trophy or the sticker in the window. So I would recommend the Sunday Times Best Companies process for companies that are serious about engagement and the people agenda. It's been absolutely fantastic for us. But now we need to look further afield and see what we can do to stretch ourselves even further.
Fantastic. That sounds like an amazing journey, and I look forward to hearing kind of more about it.
Me too.
I will be keeping tabs on you on that one.
So, I'm not quite. The challenge is, having decided that's what we want to do, now we've got to sit down and work out how the hell we're going to do it. But there you go. That's what life's about.
Well, absolutely. Blimey. It's fantastic. But on these interviews, there's always one question I end these interviews with, and that question is, Ryan, is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
There's loads I'd like to shamelessly plug, but the shameless plug that I will opt for, and actually it kind of does tie into the conversation. We've recently launched our loyalty scheme, the VIP Club, and we're very excited because at some point over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to get our 1,000,000th member.
Wow, fantastic! Congratulations.
And well, yeah, which is particularly amazing since we only launched it in November.
Cool.
And didn't think we'd do 1 million in the first year, let alone the first 7-8 months. So it's going incredibly well. It's a loyalty scheme with a difference in that you collect points,
right?
But you don't get the points. You get to nominate where the points go to an animal charity of your choice.
Fantastic.
So as you are swiping your cards, you are doing good, and thousands of pets will get a second chance of happiness because of that swipe.
Excellent.
And it also gives us, of course, fantastic data and insight into what our customers love and enjoy. So if anybody's listening to this and have a pet and love their pet, I would shamelessly plug the VIP Club.
That's fantastic, Ryan. That's been brilliant, and I'll make sure that this goal gets edited up and linked up, and we'll make a big shout out about Pets at Home and also the VIP Club. But just finally, I just wanted to say that's been amazing. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you. It's good fun.